Throughout human history, few names echo with as much fear and cruelty as of Genghis Khan's, a ruthless conqueror remembered for acts of unimaginable horror. Historians estimate that his campaigns led to the deaths of nearly 40 million people. To grasp the actual scale of such brutality that accounted for about 10% of the world's population at the time, exceeding even the combined death tolls later attributed to the likes of infamous dictators such as Mao Zedong and Adolf Hitler. So how did Genghis Khan bring about the deaths of nearly 40 million people? Was it only the swing of his sword? Yes and no. While direct combat played a role, the larger toll came during sieges and conquests, where entire cities were wiped off the map. Their men, women, and even children were subjected to the same brutal extermination. The sheer brutality of his methods was so extreme that it would make even the most infamous killers in history recoil in disgust. However, it was never simply sadistic cruelty for amusement. It was a psychological weapon. Every massacre, every mutilation, every city reduced to ash was part of his art of psychological domination. Genghis understood that fear could conquer faster than any blade, and he wielded terror as his deadliest enemy. To face him was not just to risk death, it was to witness the unraveling of terror itself. In April of 1221, Nishapur, present-day Iran, a bustling town on the crossroads of Silk Route, a vast Mongol army surrounded the city, battering its walls with fire and stone until the defenses gave way. A massive Mongol army besieged the city, launching a barrage of fireballs over 250,000 large stones and other deadly weapons at its defenses. At last, Nishapur's defenses crumbled, and the attackers surged inside, igniting brutal house-to-house combat throughout the city. Genghis Khan had given strict orders to his generals that nothing in Nishapur was to be left alive. As a result, not only the city's people, but even its animals were slaughtered without mercy. Only around 400 artisans were spared for their skills, while the rest of the population, estimated at nearly 170,000, perished in this massacre of unimaginable scale. Every remaining inhabitant of the city was forced to witness the brutal executions as survivors were systematically beheaded before one another's eyes. The Mongols then gathered the severed heads and arranged them into 3 pyramids, one of men, one of women, and one of children, standing as horrific monuments to their merciless bloodthirst. Carrying forward the brutal legacy of his father, Genghis Khan, his son Ogedei Khan, who reigned as Mongol emperor from 1229 to 1241, possessed the same insatiable drive for warfare. Like his father, he unleashed vast Mongol armies on military campaigns that stretched thousands of miles across Europe and Asia. Yet, Ogedei's reign is also remembered for one of the darkest stains on Mongol history. In 1237, Ogedei Khan ordered the mass violation of Oirat girls, an atrocity many historians consider among the most horrific acts attributed to the Mongol Empire. According to Persian chroniclers, the Oirat people fell short of meeting Ogedei's demands for providing young women to his harem. Infuriated by this, Ogedei resolved to inflict a dreadful punishment upon them. He commanded that 4,000 Oirat girls, some as young as 10, be subjected to repeated abuse by his soldiers, with their families forced to witness the horrific acts. Tragically, dozens of girls died, and the surviving victims were enslaved and distributed among harems, merchant caravans, and the Mongol forces. Another grim example of Genghis Khan's ruthlessness took place in 1220 when his forces attacked the ancient city of Termes in present-day Uzbekistan. In this horrific account, a trembling local woman fell to her knees in front of Mongol soldiers, swearing she had swallowed precious pearls to protect them. To everyone's surprise, the Mongols complied by her plea by slicing her open to retrieve the pearls. Genghis Khan issued a terrifying decree to his troops. They were to cut open every resident of Termes in search of hidden valuables. Obeying Genghis Khan's command, the Mongol soldiers carried out a grisly massacre, cutting open every resident of Termes in the belief that precious items were concealed within their bodies. The city was left in utter devastation as families were slaughtered and homes emptied, illustrating the extreme cruelty and ruthless logic that defined the Mongol conquests. In 1219, Genghis Khan took brutal revenge on Inalchuk, the governor of Otrar, in the Khwarezmian Empire, located at what is now Kazakhstan, after he had angered the Mongol ruler by plundering his caravan. Commanding a massive army, Genghis Khan invaded the Khwarezmian Empire and besieged Otrar for 5 grueling months. When the city finally succumbed to his knees, Inalchuk met a grisly end. He was executed by having molten silver poured down his throat, with some accounts claiming the molten metal was also forced into his ears and eyes. The inhabitants of Otrar suffered an equally gruesome end. The Mongols drove the city's 100,000 residents onto an open plain, where they were all mercilessly slaughtered, many enduring the same horrific molten metal execution. Interestingly, despite their fearsome reputation for cruelty, the Mongols did have a code of honor. They could not spill noble blood. Rather than executing nobles by conventional means, they devised brutal alternatives. Some received a quick death by a broken neck, while others suffered prolonged torment through suffocation or other agonizing means. One of the most infamous examples occurred when the Mongols captured a Russian army of 80,000 soldiers, many of whom were nobles. The noble captives were placed beneath a wooden platform while the Mongols danced and feasted atop it, crushing those below to death. In January of 1258, the Mongols captured the city of Baghdad, massacring over its millions inhabitants and razing much of the city. The Caliph al-Mustasim was wrapped in a rug and trampled beneath horses, executed in accordance with Mongol custom so that not a single drop of his noble blood was shed. The Khwarezmian Empire's last stand took place at Urgench, where the city endured a 6-month Mongol siege. Frustrated by Urgench's defenses and guerrilla warfare, the Mongols burned the city, but Khwarezm's resistance still persisted. In response, Genghis Khan ordered a dam diverted to flood the ruins and slaughtered the remaining survivors. Although estimates differ, some accounts suggest that more than 1 million people were killed, ranking it among the largest mass killings in such a brief period in history. Not only did the Khan punish his adversaries, but even his allies faced his wrath. At his funeral in 1227, Genghis Khan ordered that his burial site remain secret. Marco Polo later claimed that 2,000 slaves who repaired the tomb were executed by his guards, who were then themselves killed by another unit to ensure secrecy and to make sure no eyewitness survives. According to legend, the last unit of soldiers ended their own lives to ensure no one could reveal the location of his tomb. However, modern researchers now suspect his final resting place is somewhere near Burkhan-Kolden, the sacred mountain of northern Mongolia. Genghis Khan's legacy is a stark reminder of fear's power as a weapon. His brutal campaigns, from Nishapur's skull pyramids to Otrar's molten silver executions, claimed millions and obliterated civilizations. These acts, paired with a twisted code of honor sparing noble blood through gruesome means, were calculated for psychological dominance. Even his secret burial, marked by mass executions, cemented his terrifying myth. Genghis remains a symbol of ruthless ambition, his military genius forever tied to unparalleled horror.